Welcome to Auction version 4, the event management software tool from Auction Systems. In this video, in the Documents playlist, I will show you clerking sheets that are usually used for the live auction, but can have other uses too. This is a classic clerking sheet. Clerking sheets are commonly used for the live auction. The clerk is the person or persons at your event who records the winning bid for each live auction item when the auctioneer shouts, "Sold." The auctioneer will say something like, "Sold to bidder 302 for $1,000. The clerk records the bidder number, and sometimes the bidder's name, and the winning bid amount on a clerking sheet. Then a runner may take that clerking sheet over to the winning bidder to get a signature from that bidder certifying that the bid number and the amount are correct. The runner then takes the signed clerking sheet to the data entry team so the winning bid can be entered in auction. Since the auctioneer or MC often uses the information on the clerking sheet to tell the audience about the item, the clerking sheet often includes not only the item number and short description, it includes the full item description of the item, the donor and our donor's names, and the donor value of the item, as well as the winning bid block that is filled in by the clerk. You may think of other ways to use clerking sheets. For example, some organizations will print a regular silent item bid sheet and a clerking sheet for each silent item. When the silent auction closes, clerks will look at who the final winning bidder is on the regular bid sheet and then write that information down on the clerking sheet. They will attach the clerking sheet to the item and then take the standard bid sheet back to the data entry area so the winning bid can be entered in auction. This is an example of a clerking sheet for a live item that can be purchased by more than one person. If you have an item like this, you can either print 2 copies of the same clerking sheet with just one block on it, or print a clerking sheet with more than one winning bid box on the sheet. This is an example of a clerking sheet for a paddle raise or a fund-a-need, which is an unlimited bidder item. An item like this is often in the live auction. The winning bidders for this item are not buying anything. They are simply raising their paddle to donate money to your organization. The donor value of this item is 0 because each person who raises their paddle gets nothing in return for their donation. I did not make this clerking sheet in the Clerking Sheet Documents area. Instead, I made it in Documents Bid Sheets because instead of a winning bidder block, I want multiple lines. Clerking sheets give you winning bidder blocks. Bid sheets give you multiple lines for bidders. Paddle raise items should have a multiple number of people raising their paddles, so bid sheets work well for them. If you have not already done so, watch the video for bid sheets and you can make a bid sheet like this yourself. If you need help creating a bid sheet like this to use by the clerk to record winning bids for a paddle raise, give us a call and we can send you a format that can be imported into your event or walk you through how to make it for an unlimited buyer item yourself. Now let's look at how to format a standard clerk sheet for a regular single bidder item. To create a clerk sheet, on the main Home task ribbon, click Documents, then Item Documents, and then Clerking Sheets. This is the Select Document screen you will see when you first go to Clerking Sheets. There are 3 parts to the left side of this screen. The top part relates to the bottom, so we'll start at the bottom. If you have a saved custom clerking sheet format, it will be here at the bottom. If you have printed a clerking sheet in the past without saving it, Last Printed will remember what that clerking sheet looked like. Clicking on a saved custom format or Last Printed will reload the format. But when you saved or you last printed a format, you also have some item selection criteria associated with the format, which brings us to the top of this panel. If you want to load the format and the item selection criteria, this default is selected for you, but you can click the button to only load the format and not the item selection criteria before picking Last Printed or Custom Format. If you want to create a clerking sheet from scratch, choose the appropriate paper size by clicking on it. This is the clerking sheet formatting screen. At the top is the ribbon. The first 4 buttons tell you how you got to this screen. The Select Format button on the top does the same thing as the Select Document button on the left. They cause the document choices you had in the previous screen to fly out from the left. If you need to change the clerking sheet size and start over, click either of these two buttons. The Page Setup button does the same thing as the Customize Page Setup button on the left. It causes a panel to fly out from the left, and in this menu you can change the paper orientation from portrait to landscape. You can change the paper size from letter to legal if your paper stock is not letter size. You can also change the margins, and if you want to print an image on a clerking sheet, which is usually totally unnecessary for clerking sheets since the public usually doesn't see the clerking sheets, pick the image quality for any image you would like to include. Good quality is sufficient for clerking sheets. The Fonts button is also the same as the vertical font button on the side. These buttons cause a Fonts panel to fly out from the left where you can change the font and font size for any parts of the clerking sheet from the default to something different. The Num Page button on the ribbon to the right of Fonts is not often used for regular live item clerking sheets, but you could find it useful if you want to use clerking sheets to record who is the final bidder on a standard bid sheet and then attach the clerking sheet to the item itself when you take the standard bid sheet back to the data entry computers for entering winning bids. This button will allow you to print skinny clerking sheets so you can get more on a page. Start with Letter Portrait Single Column Clerking Sheets. Click Page Setup and change the orientation to Landscape. Set the left and right margins fairly small, about 0.5 inches in each direction. Then, in this Num Page grid, make sure the top square in each column is yellow. Your clerking sheets will come out with 3 items on a page. The Print section of the ribbon is next. If you need to print multiple copies of the clerking sheet, perhaps one for the clerk, one for the auctioneer, and even another one for the MC, put the number of copies in here. No collate means that if you're printing the clerking sheets for multiple items all at once, every copy of the first item's sheet will come out before all the clerking sheets for the next item. Collate means that one clerk sheet for each item will print out before the next set of clerk sheets for each item. Preview All is different than the preview on the screen. Clicking this button will cause a preview of the clerk sheets for every item in your list to pop up in front of the formatting screens. You can scroll left and right through the preview of all to see the clerk sheets before printing. This preview will pop up in a new window that normally pops up in front of the current screen, but occasionally on some people's monitors it will pop up behind. If it does pop up behind, you won't see it and you may think that Auction has stopped working, but really it's only waiting for you to look at the preview and then close it. Look at the bottom of your monitor if you think you're not seeing the preview, and you will see the icons of the applications that are running. Hover your mouse over the Auction gavel icon on the bottom of the screen, and if there is more than one screen up, the icon should give you a glimpse of both. Pick the one that looks like the preview by clicking on the little glimpse, and it should bring the preview to the front. The Print button has an arrow that means there is more than one choice associated with the button. In this case, the choice is to print only the clerking sheet for the selected item in the list of items in the formatting screen below, or to print all the items in the list. Save allows you to save the item selection criteria and the design of the clerking sheet as a custom document. If the Save button is not enabled, click the Hit button to find out why. Panels Open opens all the formatting panels, which I will show you next, and Panels Close closes all the panels. Below the ribbon on the left are some panels. The first panel is for item selection. On the left of this panel is item type, and since clerking sheets are most often used for live items, live is the item type selected. But if you want to make clerking sheets to record the final winning bidder on the regular bid sheet, click Silent. Dark buttons are turned on, light buttons are turned off. If you have a fund in need or a paddle raise item and don't want to print the standard clerking sheet for that item, use the Refine section here to exclude that item from your list of items in the center. You do not have to refine the item selection, but the refinements are here if you need them, and you can also add multiple refinements to whittle down the list of items to just the ones you want to print clerking sheets for. In the middle is the list of items that fit your particular item selection criteria. If you have a bunch of items in this list, Print All will print the clerking sheet for all the items in the list. On the right is a preview of one selected item in that list. This is only the preview of one item. Preview All on the ribbon allows you to see all the clerking sheets. This preview is connected to the buttons on the bottom of the screen. These buttons along the bottom control that preview. When you don't want to see this on-screen preview, click the On Demand and the preview will go away. When the After Idle button is selected, you can set the timing for how fast the preview on screen will refresh by typing it in here. The default is every 2 seconds. I find this 2-second timing really annoying if I'm making lots of changes because the screen will constantly blink on and off as the preview refreshes. So when making lots of changes, change this timing by typing in at least 60 seconds in here. Then, if it does not refresh immediately after the last change, click the Update Preview button and force the refresh. This button will also turn the preview back on if you turned it off by clicking On Demand. And of course, the Default Timing button pops up a screen where you can change the default update timing from 2 seconds to whatever you want. But remember, if you change this default setting in Program Settings, it will set the new default timing for every preview on any document or report formatting screen. So be sure to set it for a reasonable number of seconds, or others who open your project may not ever see a refresh and might not know to click Update Now to force a refresh. They will think making changes doesn't do anything to the preview on the screen. The next panel down below Item Selection is the Header Information panel. Usually there is no need to add a header or image to a clerking sheet, but the header is here if you need it. Below the header is Item Information Layout. Since only the auctioneer and clerk usually see the clerking sheet, there's no need to include an image on a clerking sheet, but you can if you want to. You can include the image above the item title, below the item title and short description, to the left or right of the full item description, or below the full item description. The size of the item image is controlled by the image size here. You can include the item type and number, such as Live 2 or just the number 2. If the auctioneer or MC needs to read off the full item description of the items from the clerking sheet, include the full item description here. There may be more information about the item listed in the item notes. Include them also if you need them. You can also include contents of baskets if the live item has a basket. The only way any of this information can appear on a bid sheet is if you include it in the item entry form for the item. The only way to edit the item information on a clerking sheet is to edit the item entry form for the item itself. While donor images can also be included, they are usually very unnecessary on a clerking sheet. If the auctioneer or MC needs to know the donor name and donor value, you would want to include that information. And for the auctioneer's benefit, the minimum bid is handy, so he or she knows where to start the bidding at. The last panel on the clerking sheet is for the bid acknowledgement. This is the winning bid block. If the item can have more than one bidder, you can include a block for each unit or share that is available. Or if you'll be auctioning off each unit separately, you may want to print one block per item and then print multiple copies, so each time the item gets sold, the clerk will record it on a separate clerking sheet. If you will not have the winning bidder sign the sheet, you can omit the signature line. Once you have the format and item selection how you like it, save and name the format by clicking the Save button on the ribbon. Then it will be one of your custom formats that you can call up again and again. Thank you for joining us.